Okay, thank you for that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you can join me. I pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty for justice for all. Thank you. Next, I would like to confirm that we have a quorum.
Yes, Chair, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to remind the members and public on our process, members and public comment. The primary members will be using the cameras and we will take live public comment. Members are asked to put their cameras when they have a comment or question, and then I will then recognize it. I'll ask our legal counsel to provide a quick reminder on how the public meeting will work. Please, Kimberly.
Good morning, and thank you, Supervisor Vargas. As noted on the cover page of today's meeting agenda, in addition to emailed comments, the public may also provide live comments during the meeting. To provide live comments, you can join the meeting through the link or by dialing one of the numbers provided on the cover page of today's meeting agenda. When public comments are called for on an item, please click on the raise hand icon in the toolbar on the top right of the screen. The clerk will then call on you by the name you've provided. If you are participating by phone, please press *9, which will raise your hand to indicate your desire to speak. The clerk will call on you by the last 3 digits of your telephone number. The instructions for providing live comments are also on the bottom of the cover page of today's meeting agenda, which can be accessed from the homepage of SANDAG's website at www.sandag.org. All comments, whether they are emailed or live, will be made a part of today's meeting record. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I actually think an audio issue from Sandag's end because I couldn't actually hear her very well. So I don't. If anybody has problems, could you please just raise your hand and we'll try to make this as painless as possible. But thank you, everyone. All right, with that, let's start with item number 1, approval of minutes. Are there any?
Zito moves approval.
Okay.
And Sankey second.
Are there any comments? See no these hands or any? No, we have a motion and we have. Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Thank you very much, Chair. For the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority, Gil Cabrera.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of San Diego, Vice Chair Campillo.
Aye.
Thank you. For the County of San Diego, Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. For East County, Councilmember Mendoza.
Aye.
Thank you. For Metropolitan Transit System, Councilmember Montgomery Stepp.
Yes.
Thank you. For North County Coastal, Councilmember Zito.
Zito, yes.
Thank you. For North County Inland, Mayor McNamara.
McNamara, yes.
Thank you. For North County Transit District, Councilmember Edson.
Edson, yes.
Thank you. For the Port of San Diego, Commissioner Benelli.
Benelli, yes.
Thank you. And for South County, Councilmember Sankey.
Sankey, yes.
Thank you very much, and that does pass unanimously.
Thank you. Next is item number 2, public comment, member comment. I'll ask members of the public who also comment not related to a matter agenda. Please raise your hand at the calling you.
Madam Chair, at least on my screen, it looks like Sandag Production is throwing out audio while you're talking. So I'm wondering if they might be able to sort of mute while others speak, because I think that's where some of the interference is coming from. The box keeps popping to their window when you're talking.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. This is Francesca, the clerk. So what's happening, I believe, is Chair Vargas's connection keeps dropping, and when that happens, it puts production in there instead. We don't have any open audio over here, so I believe it's a connection issue with Chair Vargas.
All right, so I'm going to try to do this. I don't really know. This is the only computer I've been working on for a while, so I have no idea. So I'll try my best to be really loud. If there's a problem, maybe I can turn it over to my vice chair computer and maybe run the meeting. We'll have people in the background and we'll figure this out.
Chair Vargas, there's also a call-in number. I don't know if you might want to consider switching to a cell phone. On your, in the calendar invite, there's a call-in number that we can connect you to also.
All right. Give me 1 second and I'll do that, and I'll just do the call that way. How about that? Hold on.
Thank you. Just make sure you mute your computer microphone so that you don't have double audio. Thanks. Chair, would you like to go ahead and proceed with the public comments while you're working on your audio issue? We do have a couple of hands raised.
Yes, please.
Okay, great. I'll go ahead and facilitate that. So the first public speaker we have is Chris, followed by Yasmin. Chris, the production team will open your microphone and you can go ahead with your comments when you're ready. Chris, you should have microphone access now if you're ready.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Fantastic. Good morning, folks. My name is Chris Sotomayor. My pronouns are they, them, ella, and I am the Transportation Justice Organizer for Mid-City CAN. I'd like to talk to you folks today about the inclusion of youth opportunity passes in the Regional Transportation Plan. The inclusion of youth opportunity passes is a crucial component in assuring equitable transportation access to all young people. Specifically, youth opportunity passes decrease the main economic barrier to accessing transportation for youth. As a person who has worked with and supported transportation impacted young people, I cannot overstate the constant struggle faced by these youth as they attempt to succeed while facing barrier after barrier. As people with financial privilege, we often underestimate just how great of an impact the youth opportunity passes would have, not just on our community now, but on the future leaders of San Diego. So I want to invite you folks today to think of youth opportunity passes, not just in terms of accessing transportation, but in terms of increasing access to success. A youth that can access transportation can access work, they can access school, they can access the medical and mental health support that will lead them to a brighter future. In addition to eliminating this financial barrier, youth opportunity passes are a step toward a greener San Diego. It is undeniable that the future is in the hands of our young people. Decreasing barriers to public transportation for youth will promote a rider culture, thereby reducing traffic and GHG emissions. In fact, a study published just this January on Sacramento's no-cost youth transportation initiative demonstrates that ridership on public transit not only increased by 106%, but also there was an increase in the youth taking regional transit that were previously traveling via car. So these facts must inform our understanding that it is our responsibility to create a regional transportation plan that takes into consideration the needs of the entire community. So we want to ask you folks to join the 5 other cities in California and the 7 states that are already implementing similar programs for their youth. Please add youth opportunity passes to the regional transportation plan, because when we equip youth with the tools necessary for them to create their own success, we create a better San Diego for all of us. Thank you folks for your time.
Thank you very much, Chris. Yasmin, we're going to go ahead and let you have access to your microphone and you can get started whenever you're ready. You have 3 minutes.
Great. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone, and good morning. Thank you for taking the time to hear us today. My name is Yasmin Abid, and I'm the youth organizer with Mid-City CAN. I'm here today with my colleague, Chris, to ask you all to center youth and make the youth opportunity as a priority and as part of the regional transportation plan. Providing youth 24 years old and under access to no-cost transit passes ensures that they do not have to worry about not being able to go to school due to the high transit costs. Black, Indigenous, and youth of color also often have to juggle school with other obligations and work with other obligations in work, and providing them with transportation will make work and extracurricular activities easier and more accessible. This is something that has proven to be a success in other cities such as San Francisco, and is a step San Diego can take, continue being amongst those who champion for equity, inclusion, and accessibility. Looking forward to seeing you all lead the way in supporting our San Diego youth. Thank you for all your work and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you very much, and Chair, that does conclude the public comments.
All right, let's see. Can you all hear me now?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you.
Okay, and I think what pops up is my microphone now. So, all right. So let's try this again. So let's move on to item number 3, our Executive Director's report.
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Good Vice Chair Campiu, good committee members. Good morning to all of you. A couple of items today. Let me just first talk about the Del Mar Bluff stabilization update. I sent you an email a couple of days ago. On Sunday morning, February 28th, the Del Mar Bluff experienced a collapse. The south of the 4th Street and a section of the bluff and a 1912 era retaining wall came down. North County Transit District stopped passenger and rail service to make sure it was safe to operate the track. After thorough review, the freight and passenger rail resumed, but at a reduced speed, 15 miles per hour for passengers, 10 miles per hour for freight. The failure happened in an area that has been slated for future stabilization. We have been in the process of designing to stabilize this. I want to assure you that our engineers and our partners in CTD are working tirelessly to stabilize the bluff in the interim until this region come together to find a long-term solution. Both Sandag and NCTD made some money available, and I authorized work to begin on the stabilization process. I also requested from the California Transportation Commission to place this on the agenda in 2 weeks to provide what we call TIP funding. We estimate the cost of stabilization to be between $5 and $10 million. I also want the board to know that our advisory board member of the Southern California Tribal Chairman Association, Chairwoman Erica Pinto, contacted us about setting up a time for the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer to visit the site to determine if there should be an unearthing of any cultural resources. That meeting is happening in a few minutes actually today. And we have coordinated the visit, so that could be accomplished. You're the transportation committee, you're the leaders who's gonna make sure that whatever we do keeps our people safe, that's most importantly, but also keeps the passenger and freight operating in that second busiest corridor in the nation. Temporary stabilization is needed right now. But I urge you as leaders to not accept temporary solutions for this. You can fight nature, but nature will win at the end of the day. This track needs to be moved inland. Sandag is performing a study right now that's gonna come up with recommendation very shortly to say where to move it inland, how to move it inland, where to tunnel, etc. Oftentimes, when I speak about this, people stop me and says, oh my God, this is gonna cost too much money and it's gonna take a long time. And both are true. But anything worth anything is gonna cost money. We cannot continue to be guessing which section of the bluff is going to collapse next. Thank God that there were no loss of life this time. So I urge you as leader to continue pushing for paying attention to this important corridor at the national, state, and local level. My team and I are here if you have specific questions about this. Let me move to another important issue, and that is on the border. The border delay impact report that we completed was presented last week to the border committee. That committee was hosted a joint meeting with the Committee of Binational Regional Opportunity and Municipalities and State Government of Baja California. The committee discussed the border wait time study, which was released last week. The study provides us with important data about how we can improve wait times and reduce the economic and environmental impact for our communities on both sides of the border. Let me just say, and many of you know this, the border issues are such a critical issues from an economic standpoint, environmental standpoint, social equity standpoint. We need to invest in infrastructure at the border. And this wait time study, just one indication why we should invest. First of all, I want to thank our partners at Caltrans, at the Imperial County Transportation Commission for their collaboration in the development of this border wait time study. Here what the study shows, just in summary. In 2016, delays at the border cost our binational economy $3.4 billion in economic output and more than 88,000 jobs. Let me repeat this number. $3.4 billion in economic output and more than 88,000 jobs. That's in 2016. Without additional improvement, like the future Otay Mesa 2, these losses could grow to $5.1 billion and 97,000 jobs by 2025. The good news is we have been working with our partners in Mexico to build Otay Mesa 2. And we put a date of September 2024 to be the time. As your chairman, Supervisor Vargas, knows, this needs leadership on both sides of the border. As I told many of you, economic development is a key for a sustainable future for our communities at the border. So this wait time study, by the way, which is available on our website if you need more detail, is an indication that any investment in infrastructure is going to lead to better economic result, better environmental result, less emissions, and more opportunities for people. So I urge you to look at the report, pay attention to it. And again, as leader, we need to pay attention to the border issues in general. And I appreciate Supervisor Vargas and Vice Chair Campio's leadership on this. I think we're gonna need it for both here and in Mexico. Pre-pandemic, I was in Mexico City 3 times in my first year here. And I was encouraged by meeting with officials in Mexico and their desire to have the same thing. Border issues are important for the whole region, not just for the border communities. Next item I want to update you is the Regional Transportation Plan. On March 12th, we are going to be speaking to you, meaning the board and the policy committees, including this one, about the 2 important components of the Regional Transportation Plan. That's data and how we cook that meal that we bring it to you and say adopt a plan, and financing. How do we pay for the plan? We're going to have a panel of experts, renowned experts from around the country, to talk to you about financing in general. Then our planning director and chief economist at the end is going to talk to you about how we think we can look at paying for the regional transportation plan. As you know, we identified during the 5 Big Move discussion, 30 mobility hubs around the region. The largest being what we call San Diego Grand Central at the Navor side, and the second largest is at San Isidro. Both of those mobility hubs are moving forward in terms of preparing and studying, and both are critical for the economies of the region. I'm happy to report that together with Caltrans, we're performing the corridor study for the Central Mobility Hub. Very shortly, you're going to have public outreach on those, and I think you will be impressed of the amount of work that's been done. To be specific, there will be a meeting scheduled for Thursday, March 11th from 6 to 7:30 on the Central Mobility Hub. Our website has more information about the Mobility Hub. Let me move to the bond program for a second. You have a stellar finance team at Sandag. Under our Chief Financial Officer, the Business Week CFO of the Year, they continue to save money for our agency. Last week, the team refinanced $537.5 million in short-term bonds. The bonds were oversubscribed by 4 times, meaning we had over $2.2 billion in orders. That means we could use the rate of the bonds and the rates were sold at 0.27%, which is a record low for Sandag. This transaction saved just over $15 million in cash flow savings. I reported to you last time that we refinanced the mid-coast loan that saved $123 million over the life of our project. We're continuing to look at more ways to save money so we can invest more in our region. And finally, I want to update you on the mid-coast. This project is moving forward on time, on schedule, on budget. Slated to be available for passengers late this year. We're going to see these beautiful red cars operating on it in the summer for trial runs. This morning I was at the Balboa station. I encourage you to visit the 9 stations and see the beautiful design that's happening. We are very close to opening the largest infrastructure project in San Diego history. That's going to provide 1 seat ride from the border to the University of San Diego. But that's also, as far as I'm concerned, is just a teaser. That's just the beginning for what the future reimagining of transportation in San Diego will be. Madam Chair, that concludes my report. My team and I will be happy.
Thank you, Hassan. We really appreciate that. All right. So after this, any public comments? Please raise your hand at this time if you have any comments. Any comments?
We don't have any hands raised, Chair.
All right. Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move to the consent agenda.
Actually,
if a member of
there are a few members that have their hands raised. Councilmember Edson and Commissioner Benelli.
Okay.
And Gil Cabrera.
Wonderful.
Do you want to go ahead, Councilmember Edson?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Hassan, for your executive report. With regard to the recent Del Mar Bluffs collapse, as Hassan mentioned, NCTD has instituted speed restrictions of 15 miles per hour for passenger and 10 miles an hour for freight. And NCTD is continuing to monitor the situation. Both Sandag and NCTD have declared exigent circumstances, and NCTD estimates up to $6 million are needed for repairs. NCTD has $500,000, $500,000 set aside, and Sandag has set aside $350,000. We are seeking the remainder of the emergency funding through the CTC. It's on their agenda. I believe that meeting is next week. And just wanted to mention on behalf of NCTD that we are so appreciative. We received funding for Bluffs 5 and Bluffs 6, and NCTD looks forward to advancing these repairs as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cabrera?
Hi, Hassan, I'm sorry. I just wanted to confirm. Did you say that we refinanced at 0.27? Was that, did I hear you right?
Yes, 0.27, correct.
Wow, that's remarkable.
It is. It's the lowest we ever had. Yes.
Any other comments?
Commissioner Benelli. Hassan, thank you for the report. Much appreciated from the port's perspective. Sandag, as well as the North County Transit District's work on the Delmar Bluffs, keeping that rail line open. As most of you know, the port runs billions of dollars each year of product out of the port and up that rail line. My question to Hassan is, Hassan, how engaged has BNSF been?
You know, BNSF is a good partner. They're very engaged. They're very collaborative. When we instituted the slowdown of the trains, obviously BNSF relies on NCTD and Sandag to partner with them on this. But let me just, Mr. Benelli, to say that I think you alluded to something that's important. This is not only the second busiest corridor in the country when it comes to passengers after the Northeast corridor, but this is the only freight corridor actually that could move trains north. And the economic impact of that is in the billions of dollars. So God forbid, if there's any disruption, we could deal with rerouting passengers, but freight is a big issue. So that's why we're working very closely with BNSF, and they're good partners when it comes to either reducing services, reducing speeds, or doing repairs.
And so my follow-up question would be, if they're really good partners, will we explore the possibility, could we get a short-term low-interest loan from them if we need it for emergency repairs?
No.
Get in the game from them?
No, I don't think we ever explored that, Mr. Benelli. I think, like I indicated, we requested that the CTC put this as part of the RTIP. This is a state, it probably is going to be state funding, but the question is, how much more can we afford to pay $5 to $6 million every time there's a collapse? And it's not always given that the CTC is the California Transportation Commission is gonna put money on the table. But I also, we worked really hard to get $106 million for stabilizing 5 and 6. And Mr. Benelli, I think you would agree that once we do this, that will give us some time to look at the long-term solution, because that's the ultimate solution. There is no way around it. Whether it's expensive, takes a long time, that's beside the point. There's gonna come a time when nature will win and we cannot repair it anymore.
I agree.
Mr. Tucker, I think I see your hand.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to address the question relative to BNSF. So BNSF has a shared use agreement that's executed between NCTD, MTS, and BNSF. It supports the cost of their use of the railroad. So on an annualized basis, BNSF pays us about $6.77 million a year to support maintenance costs. The cost for repairs to the bluffs would fall within that annual payment to BNSF. And I think, as the executive director has alluded to, we're in a really good position in terms of the stabilization that we need to secure the bluffs for the next 20 to 30 years. This was just obviously unplanned, poorly timed failure in advance of a project that we have fully funded. So we do have all hands on deck. I think there's a little bit of a timing issue between the money that we already have and getting under contracts with the respective agencies, which necessitates the need for us to actually seek the emergency funding. But I think we're in a good place. And once we can get past these kind of short-term challenges, the region can then focus in on the long-term solution. So everyone is contributing based upon their usage to include Amtrak paying NCTD an annual maintenance fee to help support the cost of the railroad.
Thanks, Mr. Tucker.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member comments? All right, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. If a member would like to pull any other items on the consent agenda, or if you have questions or comments on any of the consent items, please let me know.
Sorry, again, I do have a question on item number 5. I don't need to pull, just a quick question.
Go ahead, sir.
Hassan, my question would be, under the TransNet environmental mitigation program that we have right now, we've acquired a lot of mitigation land to offset infrastructure bills. As we go into the future, most of the future dollars coming from TransNet, will they stay with management and monitoring, or do you anticipate any future acquisitions?
I'll let Phil or Keith answer this, but in general, I would say probably future acquisition, but Phil?
Hassan, I can speak to that. So I would agree with you. I think as far as we're slowing down on our acquisitions because we do have a great deal of property, in our local streets and roads bank. And also we've, over half the projects that were on the early action project list have been mitigated. But we do have a small amount of funds that does need to be, we do need funds for regional management and monitoring. We have funding through 2028 for that side of the EMP program. So after 2028, we will be looking for funding for that side of our program. Does that answer your question?
It does, Ms. Smith. Okay.
So Mr. Benelli, I mean, it's always the case. You never have enough money to do everything you want to do. But after 2028, the region needs some resources if you want to acquire more land.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? Anybody else wants to?
Chair Vargas?
Yes.
This is Vice Chair Campillo. Wanted a quick comment on item 5, just thanking the staff for the quarterly update and noticing that of the 8 projects that were completed in Q2, 2 of them were in my district in San Diego. So I wanted to thank them for securing the funding, completing the Navajo Canyon project, San Diego River Park Foundation Boulder Creek project. One of the biggest things I'm focusing on right now is the San Diego River Park, and which is a critical thing for fire mitigation and environmental protection and species protection. And it goes not just through San Diego, but through all the county, well up into the mountains. And so just wanted to call attention to that. Really appreciate their attention to those 2 projects on behalf of my constituents.
Thank you, Vice Chair. All right, Clerk, are there any public comments on the consent agenda?
No, Chair, we don't have any hands raised.
Okay, if no further discussion, may I have a motion to approve the consent calendar,
Move
please?
consent agenda. Move consent.
Is there
second by Edson?
Is there second? Thank you. I have a first and a second. I'll call on the clerk for the roll call vote, please, clerk.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't catch who made the second.
Edson.
Thank you very much, Council Member.
You're welcome.
For the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority, Gil Cabrera.
Aye.
Thank you. For the City of San Diego, Vice Chair Campillo.
Aye.
Thank you. For the County of San Diego, Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. For East County, Councilmember Mendoza.
Aye.
Thank you. For Metropolitan Transit System, Councilmember Montgomery Staff.
Yes.
Thank you. For North County Coastal, Councilmember Zito.
Zito, yes.
Thank you. For North County Inland, Mayor McNamara.
McNamara, aye.
Thank you. For North County Transit District, Councilmember Edson.
Edson, yes.
Thank you. For the Port of San Diego, Commissioner Benelli.
Benelli, yes.
Thank you. And for South County, Councilmember Sankey.
Sankey, yes.
Thank you very much, and that does pass unanimously.
Thank you. Moving on to reports. Item number 6 is the TransNet commercial paper program. I'm going to go ahead and ask Mr. Andre
Thank you, Chair, and good morning.
for the presentation. Go ahead.
Thank you. So at the November Transportation Committee and Board of Directors meeting, staff had identified approximately 170 million to 220 million cash flow needs over the next 5 years to cover project costs currently included in the SANDAG program budget. At the time, SANDAG staff proposed several complementary strategies that would enable SANDAG to increase its financial flexibility while meeting its short-term funding commitments under the major corridor programs. Two of these strategies, the refinancing of SANDAG's outstanding TIFIA loan and refinancing of SANDAG short-term notes, which Hassan just mentioned, have been completed. Last month, we closed on the TIFIA loan, saving 123 million, and just last week, 115 million on the short-term notes. Now, SANDAG, a financing team, is continuing its planned refunding of the outstanding 2014 bond series with the additional debt service savings and issuance of new money coming next week that we hope to price and then closing later this month. So an additional financing strategy presented to the TC and the board at the November meeting was the increase in SANDAG's existing commercial paper program from $100 million to $200 million. SANDAG's CP program has been used to provide funding flexibility to keep projects moving through construction, often an expectation of state and federal grants becoming available to reimburse the agency and repay any draws under the CP program. In that respect, the commercial paper is very similar to a line of credit and provides liquidity and funding flexibility to manage the capital program. Member agencies can also tap into SANDAG CP, and as of today, the City of San Diego, Imperial Beach, La Mesa, Oceanside, and NCTD have a current draw on the program. Several other cities have used the program in the past. The SANDAG staff expects increased requests from member agencies and transit agencies in the rest of this calendar year, and increasing the CP program from $100 to $200 million will allow SANDAG to provide interim funding to partners and to advance projects with the expectation of repaying the CP draws in the near term. This should provide a cost-effective and flexible financing mechanism to advance projects without incurring additional long-term debt. SANDAG's current debt portfolio is $2.37 billion, of which 98% is fixed or synthetically fixed at an average rate of 3.2%. Our only portion of the debt, which is variable rate debt, is commercial paper, of which 53 million is currently outstanding, which is only 2% of the portfolio. The current or all-in cost of the CP program is 54 basis points, or just over 0.5%. Under this environment, it is a very cost-effective source of financing. The only immediate fee increase, increasing the line, would be approximately $320,000, which would be what we would pay to the bank for a letter of credit fee increase. And so our recommendation today is the Transportation Committee is asked to recommend that the Board of Directors approve an increase to the borrowing limit of the commercial paper program to $200 million. That completes my presentation, Chair. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Let me call on the public to raise hands. Are there any raised hands on the public to comment on this issue? I don't see any.
I don't see any.
All right, seeing none. Okay, thank you for that help. Are there any member comments on this item?
Chair, I
You can
believe
go ahead and raise your hand.
there are two
Go ahead.
hands raised, Councilmember Sankey.
There you go.
And Councilmember Zito.
Thank you, Phil,
Councilmember
and thank you,
Sankey.
Chair. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Zito.
Go ahead.
All right, I'll take it. So my first question, Andre, is I know we're entering an interest rate spike, or whatever we're talking about in terms of rates going up. So I'm curious how this commercial paper program would be impacted by that. I think 0.5 basis point is pretty good. Is that what the money's costing us from the bank, or what it's costing the individual jurisdictions? I'm curious about that. And then, because we're such a diverse group with different transportation needs, are there specific programs or projects that are either prohibited or encouraged through this commercial paper program? For example, does it have to be infrastructure or those kind of things? What are the actual restrictions on that commercial paper as far as jurisdictions are going?
Sure. Let me answer your first question. So earlier, Hassan mentioned that we closed on our short-term paper that we just sold at 27 basis points. The reason why the commercial paper is a little bit more money is because we actually have to pay for the line of credit to a bank to support our liquidity. So currently the amount that we're paying on the paper is 16 basis points, but then there's 32 basis points that we pay to the bank. It's Bank of America right now. And then there's a remarketing agent that has to resell the paper on a weekly basis. So the all-in cost is 54 basis points. So you're right, interest rates are rising, but that's more than longer-term interest rates. Short-term interest rates, the Federal Reserve has basically come out and said they're going to keep interest rates pretty stable for the next 1.5 to 2 years. So we expect that 16 to 20 basis points be within that range. Now, even when interest rates were a lot higher back 2 years ago, commercial paper got up to about as high as 1.75%. So still lower than the 3% of our fixed program. So we do see that there could be some, obviously when rates go up, we'll move up, but still it's a great program to kind of get in and get out on a short-term basis, needs for SANDAG and needs for our member agencies as well. But to answer your second part of the question, typically the agencies can only use the commercial paper program for construction projects. So anything that they have currently programmed, but they want to accelerate, they can use the commercial paper program. And what we basically do is make sure that based on the formula and the amount of funds that each of the member agencies receive, we just make sure that if we pay this money up front, that you have the ability to repay the program. And generally that hasn't been a problem. Most of the requests that have come forward to us, we've been able to accommodate.
Sounds great. And then the repayment period is short-term, 18 to 24 months, because it's basically money that'll be coming in from other grants or other sources. Is that kind of the way it works?
Generally, that's correct. The city of San Diego right now has a program. The bridge that they're building, that's a little more of a time period. But I think the board has given them 5 years for the repayment of that. So we do make exceptions to the rule if necessary, depending on exactly what the funding need is for.
Yeah, I remember when we did that actually as a committee and recommended that to the board. So seeing that project come together is really kind of encouraging, and it's a good example of how that commercial paper is successful for local jurisdictions as well as the agency overall. So when it comes time, I'll be supportive of the motion.
Thank you. Councilmember Ozito?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And I'll start off just by congratulating staff on the refunding and the refinancing of our long-term bonds. Your timing is obviously impeccable. If you have any advice that you'd like to share, maybe we could all learn from you. But good, that was really great outcome, and I think we're going to be able to take good advantage of that. My first question is I know you mentioned the increase of the fees to support the program at another $320,000 a year. When member agencies take advantage of this program, are some of those fees passed along, or is that just entirely absorbed by SANDAG?
No, thank you, Councilmember, for the question. So yes, basically every fee is recouped from whoever borrows the money. So right now, our cost is 54 basis points. It would go up to 54 plus another 32 basis points, and that would be passed on to the agencies who borrow the money.
Okay, so the annual fee of $320 is actually recouped as well if an agency borrows the money. And then with respect to SANDAG's use of the commercial paper program itself, is there if interest rates, as you said, interest rates are expected to remain low. If interest rates were to increase, is there a mechanism by which we would say we're not going to actually use this program any longer? Is there an annual, right? We've obviously saved a lot of money annually by refinancing the other programs. Is there a relationship between how much we would draw here and how much that's going to cost us annually versus how much we've saved elsewhere?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And generally, we do not plan to borrow commercial paper until or unless we have a bond that's coming up. So for example, generally every 2 years, we do a long-term bond. And so as our bond proceeds deplenish, we would typically use the commercial paper program and then take it out with the long-term bonds. But as of right now, Sandag is pretty much on a pay-as-you-go program. We don't expect to issue bonds for another maybe 3 years. And so the only time that we would use the commercial paper program is, for example, we have a $100 million FFGA from the federal government on the Midcoast project, but we upfront that money. And so from time to time, we're paying maybe up to $20 million a month for that, for the Midcoast. And so we don't have any money to reimburse us right away. We'll tap into the commercial paper program. And then when the money becomes available on the FFGA, we'll pay it down. So our long-term goal is we don't usually use a commercial paper program for any long-term, it's more for short-term needs.
Right, and on that latter, from the previous board presentations, I gathered that it was, the refunding of the existing agreements with the federal agencies and that kind of stuff, which is where we need it. But will that require board action, or will you just do the withdrawal in order to pay the bills?
Once you're giving me the authority, once the board gives us the authority to use a commercial paper, right now it's at 100, we're asking for 200. Right. Basically, you have given me the authority to use on the paper.
Okay, given that, is there some mechanism by which we can just get regular updates of where we're at on that program?
Yeah, so on a quarterly basis, we provide the board with a market update. And in that report, it shows exactly how much of the commercial paper is outstanding and what rate it is at and how long is it out for. So we do provide a quarterly update.
Okay, great. I'll be looking forward to that. I don't see any other members' hands raised, so I will go ahead and move approval of staff recommendation.
Thank you for that. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, Councilmember Sankey, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. I'm going to go ahead and call on the clerk for the roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair. For the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority, Gil Cabrera.
Cabrera, yes.
Thank you. For the City of San Diego, Vice Chair Campillo.
I vote aye.
Thank you. For the County of San Diego, Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. For East County, Councilmember Mendoza.
Aye.
Thank you. For Metropolitan Transit System, Councilmember Montgomery Stats.
Yes.
Thank you. For North County Coastal, Councilmember Zito.
Zito, yes.
Thank you. For North County Inland, Mayor McNamara.
McNamara, aye.
Thank you. For North County Transit District, Councilmember Edson.
Edson, aye.
Thank you. For the Port of San Diego, Commissioner Benelli.
Benelli, yes.
Thank you. And for South County, Councilmember Councilmember Sankey.
Sankey, yes.
Thank you very much. And that does pass unanimously.
Thank you. Item number 7 is the Regional Bikeway Program status update. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Linda.
Good morning, Chair Vargas and committee members. Linda Culp here, Bikeway Corridor Director with SANDAG, and happy to give you our next regularly quarterly status update of our Bikeway program. Next slide. I just thought a little bit of background on the regional network and our early action program, and some base documents to just quickly mention. One is a 2010, our board of directors approved our regional bike plan. We use that document right into the 2011 regional transportation plan, which made a major commitment to active transportation in our region. And then that was the basis for 2013 Board of Directors action to set aside $200 million of our local funding, mostly in our local TransNet bicycle and pedestrian neighborhood safety funds, to be leveraged with other funds. But that morphed into our early action program. So since that time, we've been pretty busy on the planning, the environmental, the design, and construction of several projects. Currently, we have over 20 projects in progress. Happy to say we have built and opened about 12 miles. We have another 13 in construction, and I'll run through some of the highlights there in a moment. But we have many more miles that are nearing construction. So it's a very exciting time for our bike program. Next slide. Now, this chart just gives you another snapshot of our EAP and the status, and it kind of from left to right goes through kind of the stages of a project.
You can see in that middle bar, though, we have many, many miles that are in final design, ready to go to construction. So that's sort of the point in time of our overall program. I mentioned those miles in construction. I'll give you more highlights in a moment. And then happy to say we have about 12 miles that are finished and open from the regional network. Next slide. Where we think we will be successful in our program is designing these bikeways for folks that have all ages, all abilities. And you can kind of see some of the examples of some of those folks and those trips that they would be making. So through opening this network of safer and separated bikeways, that's where we think that our program will have success. Next slide. So I thought just give you some highlights of some construction projects coming up. I will just say you'll see a common theme throughout all of the photos and the information, and that's just, it's just not paint. It's not just striping. We have some pretty significant civil improvements, whether they're retaining walls, they're raised medians. You can see there pedestrian and bicycle bridges in a few of our projects. And traffic calming elements like the top right photo, which is a neighborhood traffic circle, and we'll talk more about that. A lot of times in our urban projects, we are on very old city streets, and so those are in need of drainage improvements, of ADA improvements, and that sort of thing. So not just paint, we are spending significant time and investment to kind of put in some of these additional civil elements. Next slide. So first begin with the Rose Creek Bikeway. That is a portion of the coastal rail trail that eventually run from Oceanside to downtown San Diego. Rose Creek Bikeway is about 2 miles. It's in the city of San Diego, mainly along Santa Fe Street, but it is adjacent to our Mid-Coast Transit Corridor and actually is being built as one of those component projects. So you can see a couple of construction photos there. And in the next slide, I kind of joke, I love seeing paving pictures because that means we're almost done. And with Rose Creek Bikeway, we are almost done. So it's always good to see these kind of final construction steps being taken and able to get that project open. Next slide. So this is a snapshot of the project overall. I mentioned 2 miles in the city of San Diego, 99% complete, and happy to be open in that project in another month or two. We show these graphics on all of our construction projects when we bring these updates. And so this is just the famous banana curve. It just shows you the comparison between how much time we're taking and how complete we are. And generally you like to stay within those two curves, and you can see how this project has progressed. We had some delays way back in the beginning that kind of a little bit slower start, but the construction team and the Sandag team is making really great progress on this project. Next slide. Now heading up north to North County, and this is to talk about a section we just opened in late January of our Inland Rail Trail. And the Inland Rail Trail is will largely parallel the Sprinter rail corridor from the city of Escondido west to the city of Oceanside eventually. Very happy to have opened 3 miles in the county of San Diego near the Buena Creek Sprinter Station, and then into portions in the city of Vista. And so that was opened a couple of months ago. And in the graphic on the right-hand side of the slide here, that we held a virtual ribbon cutting at the end of January and promoted that on our social media page. So you can see some of the folks there using that already. And you can see just how close we are to the Sprinter corridor in the left-hand photo. Next slide. Now coming back down to the city of San Diego, I wanted to talk a couple of minutes about our North Park and Mid-City bikeways. We are right now in construction on 6.5 miles along Georgia and Meade Avenues and Landis Street. And you can see those in the green and the purple there. Next slide. This is a rendering. When we're finished, this is a rendering of what all of these concepts kind of working together will look like. And this is one particular intersection in North Park. It is a neighborhood traffic circle. This is one of 19 traffic circles that we will construct as part of this project. When we're finished, you can see how that works, how the pedestrian improvements, the bike improvements all work together to basically slow everyone down, make it safer for everyone using that roadway. Next slide. So additional construction photos here, and you can kind of see how that rendering of the neighborhood traffic circle looks in practice with the photo on the right-hand side, one that has been constructed. Next slide. Additional neighborhood traffic circle there and the construction going on. And one thing that I wanted to point out on the right-hand photo is an intersection treatment. It's new to the city of San Diego. And what this looks like is at the intersection, we're going to pop out this curb, so to speak, and so we'll shorten the distance that a pedestrian has to walk to get across that busy street. So that's one improvement. The second improvement, you can see there kind of in the colored concrete portion, that's a portion of the bikeway. So I'm on my bike, I'm headed into this, we call bend out. I go up and over, I'm safely separated from traffic, and then I go back across the intersection back into the bikeway. So this is one of the many treatments that we're using. Just happens to be part of the Georgia Meade and Landis project. Next slide. A snapshot of this project, as I mentioned, 6.5 miles in the city of San Diego, halfway there, making good progress. You can see in the banana chart on the right-hand side. Next slide. Also in the city of San Diego, we have several miles that we plan to build for our Uptown Bikeways project. And you can see in the blue there is the 4th and 5th Avenue Bikeway. And this bikeway extends from downtown. It will connect to work that the city of San Diego is doing in terms of their downtown mobility plan. And it will head north up into Bankers Hill and eventually into Hillcrest, and that's where it will connect with other segments that we have under design currently. Next slide. This is also a rendering, and we're looking north. We're standing on 5th Avenue, and we're looking north up into the Bankers Hill area. And so from the left-hand side of the curb, you see that will be the separated bikeway that we're building. You can see that person there on their bike. There'll be some drainage improvements, some landscaping. We'll have a raised median. We'll have parking adjacent to the raised median. We'll have 2 travel lanes. And then additional improvements on the other side in many cases. So next slide will show you what these improvements are looking like in the ground. So we have some intersection improvements, and then on the right-hand side, you can see the construction of that raised median. And so where that construction worker is standing right now doing his work, that's where the future bikeway will be. So you can see that separation. And then on the other side of that raised median will be a parking area. Next slide. Just a few more photos from Uptown, some drainage improvements going in on the left-hand side, and then maybe a little bit better shot of that separated bikeway that's finished. This one's a little bit closer to the downtown area. Next slide. So this is a snapshot of this project, 4.5 miles, as I mentioned. We started the construction in earnest in October, so we're about 35–40% complete now. You can see the banana curve. We did get off to a little bit slower start with permits and that kind of thing, getting actually out there in construction, but now the team's making very good progress and plan to also have this project open this time next year. Next slide. We have a number of projects. I showed you some of the highlights of the projects that are in construction, but we also have about 20 more miles that are in final design, and they've been submitted to the city of San Diego through their Development Services Department review. This is one of the updates that I provide about every quarter, and you know, this has unfortunately been something I haven't been able to update too much progress on. We've had 8 projects there for a while now. Pershing Bikeway, for example, over 2 years in review at the city. And so that's been something that, you know, all of the team and management and folks at the city have been trying to work on for a while. And I'm really happy to report on that last bullet that recently we have made some, I think, great progress with the city on a little bit different, but a streamlined approach to getting not only these projects out, accelerating the decisions and the permits for these, but we also have a few projects that we're holding kind of waiting to be submitted to the city. So that's been very, very positive. And so I'm real happy to be able to report that to the committee this morning. Next slide. Also good news that we heard, we have another couple of miles section of our North Park Mid-City family of projects. This is along Orange Avenue, 2.5 miles, and largely in the City Heights community of the city of San Diego. And I'm very happy to learn that in February, state staff announced that we are in line for a $4.3 million active transportation program grant award for construction. So it'd be great to have that announced officially by the state in another month or so, and then have that project going into construction in 2022. So that was some really great news we got for our program just recently. Next slide. Last fall, we talked a little bit about how biking has increased in the San Diego region. That's through the monitoring program that we have at Sandag along 9 major regional bikeway corridors. We produced an info bit that's available that talked about how biking had increased during the stay-at-home orders last spring over the previous spring. And you've heard things in the news about it's hard to buy a bike. It takes you a long time to get new bikes and that kind of thing, which is translating here on this graph. So we took a look at the last few years, and then on an annual basis, we can see on the bars the change in bike volumes, and then also very positive that between 2019 and 2020, bike volumes continue to increase over 30%. So we'll continue to monitor these, and we can bring back statistics on overall on particular corridors in the future. The last slide, please. So I just wanted to end by saying that for the next quarter, we'll continue to be very busy on construction. So happy that Rose Creek Bikeway will be open during the next quarter, and that also will continue working with the city of San Diego on our urban projects and streamlining that review and approval process. So with that, I will stop, and I'm happy to take any comments or questions that you have.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Any public comments? Please raise your hand. Oh, I have a couple of raised hands from members. So if no public comments, I'm going to go ahead and.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay.
We do have one public comment. Jacob Mandel, you can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Hi there, my name is Jacob Mandel, and I am the Advocacy Manager for the San Diego County Bicycle Coalition. Today, I'm calling in to express our excitement and support for Sandag planning, designing, and constructing these 70 miles of bikeways throughout the region. These bikeways are essential for our region's sustainability, and we need them now more than ever before. The dramatic increase in bike trips across the region shows that we need these bikeways online as quickly as possible. As we move from design to construction, I hope that Sandag will recognize the demand for safe streets for all San Diegans and implement innovative solutions to get these bikeways online as quickly as possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other public comments? I'm going to turn it over to some of our board members.
Chair, we do have one more hand raised now.
Okay, thank you.
Barbara, you can go ahead whenever you're ready. You'll have 3 minutes. Barbara, I believe you're self-muted at the moment. If you're on a phone, you can dial *6 to unmute yourself. Barbara, I'm so sorry. We still can't hear you. You might want to try logging out and logging back in again, or using the dial-in number.
So why don't we go ahead and go to member comments, and when she comes back, we can go ahead and have her speak. How about that?
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
All right, members, I'm going to take you first, Mr. Bonelli.
Thank you, Chair. Linda, thank you for the report as always. Much appreciated. For next time around, it may be a request. I want to make sure we're doing everything at the port to expedite the Bayshore Bikeway on our tidelands through Chula Vista and National City. So if you could drill down for us, not now, but next time around, how we're doing, so I make sure I give my colleagues on the Board of Port Commissioners the most up-to-date information to make sure we're working through the National City Balance Plan and the major redevelopment of the Chula Vista Bayfront, that we're in close coordination to make sure we can finally complete the Bayshore Bikeway. Thank you for the report again, Linda.
Thank you. Will do.
Ms. Judy?
Hi, I just want to thank everybody for the 3 additional miles for the inland bike trail. And I'm wanting to encourage you to finish the one going Mar Vista Civic Center to our transit center there. That will be the next one that goes, and to continue the application for the gap that we still have a gap up here in North County. And so we need to continue to find funding for that gap. So I just wanted to know if we have an update on that. Maybe Linda could tell us that.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, as you mentioned, we, in addition to the 3 miles we opened in the county and the city earlier, we are in final design on the 1 mile additional segment between Mar Vista and Civic Center. We're working on final design plans for that. We did receive a state grant a couple of years ago for that. So we do plan to be advertising that for construction later this calendar year. So that's good news. That same Orange Bikeway grant that I mentioned at the end of my presentation, we had other grant applications submitted. One was for that gap connector. Unfortunately, we were not successful at the statewide competition. There is still a regional competition outstanding that we're still waiting to hear on. And if we're not successful, then I'm sure we'll be continuing to apply for grant funds for that gap connector.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sankey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having been on this committee for several years now, it used to drive me crazy that it cost $1 million a mile to do these projects. And Linda, I want to salute you and your team for making us aware of the other parts of this. Like, as you said in your remarks, it's not just lines on the street. There's significant pedestrian, vehicle traffic calming, which we're actually very active with in here in Coronado. It's really appreciated. And you really do get great gains in these urban areas that go way beyond the people riding their bikes. I think when I drive by the 4th and 5th ones, up that hill, I think of the electric bike folks that are going to be able to use those now. But I am curious because we did have a problem a while back with a lot of scooter issues on sidewalks in the downtown and the urban areas. And I'm imagining electric bikes, even though they have a motor, are allowed in the bike lanes. Are the scooters encouraged or allowed to also use those? Is a question. And then my last comment would be an experience we're having in Coronado with the Bayshore Bikeway along Tidelands Park and in the ferry landing area. The mix of speeds between the families with the strollers and the kids on their little bikes versus the road bikes and the spandex groups of riders, spandex clad groups of riders rolling through those impacted areas quite quickly has necessitated the need for what we're calling etiquette signage. And so if you're a user in the Bayshore Bikeway, you'll see this coming up pretty soon. Reminding folks to be attentive to slower traffic, reminding people to be courteous, and reminding people to ride, most importantly, safety-wise. We did have a young man, a child, single-digit age, lose part of his ear in a collision not too long ago. So we're definitely being pragmatic and forceful about reminding people that they need to bike, but they also need to bike safely. And so that's a ridership issue, as you said in your stats. There's lots more people using all the bikeways around town, but I think it's important that safety be considered, especially for the folks who are riding, serious riders. And then, so just that one question: are scooters allowed in all these new bike lanes?
Yes, e-bikes, regular bikes, e-bikes, scooters would be allowed.
Good. Thanks so much. Appreciate all your work,
Thank
Linda.
Ms. Edson?
Yes, thank you. I wanted also to thank Linda for the excellent presentation and staff for all you've done to advance these projects, which will greatly benefit our region and actually are greatly benefiting our region at this point. They're great ways for people to get back and forth to work, to run errands, and also to recreate. So thank you so much for advancing these projects.
Thank you. Vice Chair Campillo?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Thank you to the staff for the presentation today. Wanted to bring attention to to one a sentence in the staff report that said, as a result of the extended review times, SANDAG and the City of San Diego staff are actively partnering to develop a more streamlined review and approval process. I was hoping you could expand a little on the delays that have been occurring on these. As representative for the city, I'm happy to work with you all to identify ways we can be helpful in addressing those delays.
Yes, thank you for the question. I think it's a number of items that we have discovered through this approval process. One, going through Development Services Division, they are very busy with, other developments, other projects, and, they have some limited staff from time to time. So I think that hasn't helped overall the situation. I think a lot of those items, one that I mentioned, if you recall, that what I called a bend out, where it's kind of the cyclist will go up on the, share the sidewalk for a short stretch, that kind of thing. Those kind of features not being a standard feature for the city. So not having a standard to review our design plans next to. And so I think that caused delays. And just with the lengthy review cycles, it does take some time to respond to a number of the comments the city will have. It might cause redesign, and that takes a little time. So I think it's several main reasons we've seen, but I think through this streamlined approach, though, would take our projects out of development services and put them in the engineering and capital program. And then streamlining both the technical reviews and then taking the city up on their suggestion to have an executive committee, an executive level committee of city management who we would bring the main issues to for resolution. And so that part will be, big part of the streamlining going forward.
Excellent. I appreciate those ideas. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have Ms. Barbara back. I think, Ms. Barbara? Some public comment?
Hi, thank you so much. And I'm sorry, I had some technical difficulties there. My name is Barbara Torres, and I am the founder of Bike Claremont. And I just wanted to take the time to thank staff and thank you, board, for the improvements that you have done to the Rose Creek Bikeway section there. And also wanted to remind everybody that there are communities east of the 5, like Claremont, and to maybe also think about future connectivity east-west. Once again, thank you so much, and sorry about the technical difficulties earlier.
Oh, no need to apologize. It's one of those days today, but it's good. Thank you for your comments. I did want to ask a question because my brother does live in North Park, so I've been driving around the roundabouts, and they seem really like everything's super tight. I'm assuming that's all done the right way, but one of my thoughts while I was driving, because I grew up in Tijuana, we have a lot of roundabouts, right? It's normal, we're used to it. Is there money or resources that are going to be allocated specifically to education? I know that Member Saki mentioned that they're doing some work, but I feel like, as a community, San Diego is really not naturally a biking community, right? I think it's changing and you see the ridership, but it seems like it would be great to either do PSAs or some sort of education to our communities about the rights that people who ride bikes have and how we need to be, kind and not be, the way people drive. I get really nervous when I see people driving, who are on our bikes because people are speeding and there's a lot of that. I'm sure you've had these conversations before, so if you have, I'm happy to take the question offline, but I would like to see if there's, it'd be great if we could, do more around that.
Yeah, Chair Vargas, that's a great question. And a couple of years ago, we did receive a state grant for just what you're talking about, that educational and encouragement component. So a lot of our urban areas, like the ones I highlighted, lots of schools, lots of kids going to school. And so we are going to be rolling out that kind of campaign at the same time we're finishing up some of these, the construction on these urban bikeway. So I'm happy to talk more details offline, but yes, that's a great question. And it was nice to get some state funding to help us implement that kind of thing.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Seeing that there are no other comments, with that, our next transportation meeting is going to be scheduled for Friday, March 19th at 9 a.m. Is there no other comments? we are officially adjourned.